So welcome everyone. I think we can get started, and then if more people trickle in, they will get the chance to see the recording, so that's fine. All right, so welcome everyone to this masterclass where we are looking at how to write a B2B SaaS homepage that converts visitors into customers. So let's get started. The SAS Death Zone. Can you write in the chat if you know what the SAS Death Zone is when it comes to conversion? What do you think? Let's see. Checkout page. Turbocharging and elevating shit to the next level. No sales, abandoned carts. Okay, a few cool ideas, but I have another one, which is, what do you think this is? Maybe you guessed it. It's bounce rate. Bounce rate is killing your chances of converting, guys. Let's look into what happens. So for SaaS, some benchmarks say that it's the third or fourth highest between industries as far as bounce rate, with a whopping 64%. So why for SaaS specifically? A few ideas are because products are complex, so it's quite hard for people to understand, especially B2B products. There are multiple buyer user personas involved, so it's kind of tough to be able to speak to everyone well on the homepage. Competition is fiercer and fiercer. As you probably know, if you work in SaaS, a lot of products bubble up every day, and every single product uses the same messaging, promises the same benefits, kind of includes the same features, so it's always harder to differentiate. Technical jargon or fluff, especially in enterprise, that's a huge problem that I see day to day in my copywriting work, but also for small companies who don't really know how to navigate that messaging and kind of resort to just copying whatever everyone is doing. We tend to push on trials for SaaS, so we try to push our trials, so there's no real differentiator. Every single product-led company offers free products, free trials that people can sign up for, so it's kind of overwhelming. And products might need demos, so sometimes demos are behind like a sign-up form, so there's always that kind of friction. What causes high bounce rate? These are the typical culprits. So low intent. So the audience that gets on the website is not real convinced that they want to buy yet. So their intent is low. There are text speed issues, especially considering devices. Sometimes the website is low or doesn't load, or the demo doesn't work, or the interactive demo doesn't work if you have an interactive demo. Disruptions and pop-ups. This honestly happens less and less. It's more of like an e-commerce problem, but still some SaaS experience it. Confusing or overwhelming navigation, especially if your SaaS serves a lot of buyer personas and has a lot of different ways of seeing the same products, or even if it has multi-product suite. It can be overwhelming to navigate the whole website, so people tend to leave and not make any decision. But I'm gonna propose a few other causes that I think are the most serious ones when it comes to bounce rate. So first, we have no or unclear or irrelevant call to action. So this means that it's not clear what you want people to do on a website. Second, expectation mismatch. So wherever people are coming from, when they land on your website, whatever you're offering doesn't match what they were expecting to see, right? And that can be the messaging, but also the product. It's a lot of variables. Third, and most important, is the value proposition is not compelling enough. And there's a lot of causes, deeper psychological causes behind this that we are going to look at in this masterclass. So For the purpose of this masterclass and the homepage, these three are the most important and the ones that we are addressing. So when the value proposition is not compelling, visitors don't resonate. When their expectations don't match, they'll think it's not for them. When the CTA is unclear or irrelevant or there's no real call to action, they won't take action. When you have all of these three, again, they will say goodbye. And that's when bounce rate comes in. So what should you do? First, a couple of things about me, who I am, just to give you some context. So I'm Chris. I was a software engineer for 10 years in a completely different field from software as a service. I was a software engineer for the industrial automation, but that taught me a lot that I'm still applying today, from logical thinking to user interface design and all that good stuff. Then I turned into conversion copywriter in 2016, 17. Then I worked at an agency as a UX designer, UX lead, usability testing. It was an agency turned usability testing startup, Conversion Crimes, where I learned all of the stuff that I know about UX. And then I turned into Conversion Alchemist, which is my own way of saying what I do. If copywriting is salesmanship in print, I define conversion alchemy as salesmanship in pixel, which is my own combination of messaging strategy, conversion copywriting, UX design, and a spruce up of AI. To me, alchemy, I want to specify what I mean with that, and two big influences for me are, one, Rory Sutherland, author of the book Alchemy, and I think a CEO of Ogilvy, a big agency, big advertising agency. He said, Hillary thinks like an economist, while Donald is a game theorist, and he's able to achieve with one tweet what would take Clinton 4 years of congressional infighting. That's alchemy. You may hate it, but it works. So that kind of using words with a deeper meaning that hit at specific emotions and actual what people mean rather than what they think they want. So deeper psychological stuff. The other one is Bill Bernbach, which was the founder of BBDO, big advertising agency, again in the 60s, 70s, the guys that did the Volkswagen ad. And he used to say, rules are what the artist breaks. The memorable never emerge from a formula. And a big part of what I'm talking about today, it's going to be how to write and structure a homepage without using any formulas or frameworks. It's more of a generic structure and layout that you can vary and work around and play with. And that's because I don't think formulas, like rigid formulas, work. You actually have to go deeper. So how do we apply alchemy to our SaaS homepage? It's not about formulas. It's about understanding people. All right, so here we go. First, I wanted to see, do you have any questions at this point, or should we go straight in? Everything clear? Let me see. All right, let's go. All right, so when we talk about a homepage, this is the structure that I always recommend and use. It's a structure that I took from and changed, modified from Joanna Wiebe at Copy Hackers, which is one of my mentors, I would say. And from the top, the biggest difference between any other framework, any other ways of approaching a homepage is the first point. So it's what they're thinking. And the main difference here is that a lot of frameworks basically tell you to start with either grabbing attention or start with the problem, or I don't know, talk about the features that you offer, how you're different. This structure, I think it's great because it starts with the audience. So first you have to understand what they're thinking when they land on the page. And it's a series of questions, understanding how they how they think, what language they use, where they are at when they are landing on the website. So a series of decisions and tiny steps in their journey. The second part is proof. So proving immediately what you just said here, and that you have legitimacy to say what you just said at the top. Third step, it's telling them what you do to help them with what you just said. Then we go into the how you do it, better or in a different way. Then we address the switch and the anxiety that they're experiencing. So the switch is basically when they get on the website, they are always making trade-offs, right? So they're always switching from either a status quo or another similar solution. So it's important to keep that in mind and always address those switching costs that they have in their mind. Then we intersperse with a bit more proof, and we might add throughout the page. I just included 2 main sections just because these are the most critical ones. And finally, the close, where we close the deal and seal the deal. But this is just the surface, right? So I wanted to go deeper and use another kind of mental model that I really like, which is a heuristic formula to understand website. Once you understand this, you can basically look at any website and understand what they're doing, if it's working or not, and give some critical feedback at least. So this is the same structure that we look at, and we can basically put on it these themes. So what does this mean? And you can check out the full website at CXL with links to the sources. But basically, when we're talking about what they're thinking, it's about relevance. So what we write needs to be relevant to their situation. And again, I'll walk you through some examples of how to understand that. Proof, it's about creating trust. And the thing that a lot of people don't really know or try to not think about is that proof, when it comes to creating trust on a website, whenever someone lands on it, it's not looking at the whole page, but people, even when they look at your value proposition, they can create an immediate impression of whether or not they trust you just from getting a sense from the design, from the words they're using, from the overall feel. It's kind of a gut impression, gut feel, and it happens in 50 milliseconds, in like one maximum 5 seconds. So that's why in a lot of usability testing, you have that called 5-second test, where you basically ask people, look at this page for 5 seconds, then bring the page down and tell me what you think this website does, who do they do it for, and so on. So that's kind of the 5-second test, and that's what I mean by trust. Trust is created immediately. What do we do to help them with that? This is all about orientation, right? So people, when they land on your website, they need to understand exactly what you do, what is your product, and how you connect it to what they're thinking, what they're experiencing it at the moment. But also it's about helping them orient themselves on the website. So this is about navigation, as we'll see after, and helping them figure out where to go and what to do next. How we do it, it's about stimulation. So this is about how you do it differently and why they should stick with the website, stick around. Then we have switch and anxiety section. This is about security and convenience. So making sure that you point out that the process, carrying forward, signing up, or getting in touch with support is safe, secure, and convenient, that it's not going to take ages. So this can be the initial onboarding as well. Final proof, again, security and convenience. So these kind of, when it comes to the emotional and psychological aspects, kind of match. And then finally, we have the close, confirmation. And confirmation is interesting, not only about getting them to fill the form or submit information. It's also about confirming to them that after they fill the form, the process is going to be accomplished successfully, right? So it's about sending them encouraging messages, thanking them, explaining next steps, so clarifying all the steps possible. How do you figure all of this out? we learn how people make decisions. So a great framework that I would recommend you to learn, which is super interesting to me just because it's probably the best and easiest way to understand why you make decisions, even in your personal life, right? And it's from the Rewire Group, specifically by Bob Mosta, which is one of the co-founders, creators of the Job to be Done framework. And if you want to learn more about, I recommend the book Demand Side Sales 101, which is great to understand how to use this stuff. But basically, in short, these are the 4 forces of progress. And you have these positive ones at the top, which is one, is the push of the situation, right? So it's about problem solving. It's about what they are currently experiencing and how they want to move away from that. Then we have the pull of the new solution, which is what you do and how you do it. And then at the bottom, we have the negative forces. So the 2 forces, the block change, which one is the anxiety of the new solution. So there's always, as I mentioned, the switching costs, not knowing what you don't know, and so on. And then we have the habit of the present, which is whatever they're used to doing now. It's always hard to move away from that, especially in SaaS, when you might have a lot of integrations, a lot of critical components that if you switch to something else, they might break everything. So once you have this framework in mind and you speak to customers, and I can share the questions that I use to understand that. Once you speak to customer using this framework, you basically get all the information you need to write your homepage without actually guessing. So how do we map that process to these steps when it comes to a homepage, for example? Quite simple. So we have the first kind of 2.5 is not a perfect match, but the push, it's basically explaining what they're thinking, giving them proof, and what do we do to help them. This is all proof. When it comes to pull, it's a mix of the what you do with the how you do it. So this is your solution. When it comes to the habits, it's, as I mentioned, addressing the switching cost, the anxiety, and also giving them proof and making sure that they understand that the process is going to be safe and convenient. And then finally, we have anxiety, which is, again, addressed by some proof, which can be testimonials, case studies, and the close, which confirms to them that this is going to be the process, the product that they need moving forward. Again, if you want the questions that I ask in my research process, just ask me after or send me an email. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. So how do you do every section? Let me see. We are on time. All right. We'll try to go quite fast through this. So how do you build every section that we just talked about? So how do you build what you're thinking, proof, and all these sections? These are some examples of how I like to address this section. And I would like to think about building these sections. And I'll show you some real life examples after. So what they're thinking, which is about relevance and resonance. Here, this section is mostly about the headline, subhead, and the primary CTA. Primary, I mean that you can have a secondary CTA, but a primary is basically the goal, the main goal of your business, whether you sign up for a demo or sign up for a trial. And the secondary can be sending people to other pages of the website. But the main point of this section is the headline and subhead, which is your value proposition. This section is about relevance, and as I meant, but also about resonance. So when it comes to relevance, we are talking about the language, but also the points that we are hitting, whether or not we're talking about a problem or about the solutions that they're looking for, and about exactly what they're experiencing. But also, we should keep into account resonance. And there's a concept, if you want to look it up, it's called the limbic map, which is great to be able to test different emotional angles. But resonance, it's all about understanding different, understanding how you actually make the relevant message also emotional. So hit a different emotional angles, as I mentioned, whether you want to hit a more positive angle or more negative, or like a balanced approach. You can test different angles and see whatever resonates the most with your audience. So just remember, it's about the logical and making it relevant also to wherever they are coming from, whether it's SEO, Google search, or ads, but also resonance. So it needs to be emotional. Awareness. So it's about understanding the awareness of these people. So you're probably familiar with the stages of awareness. So understanding whether they are in SaaS, they're probably going to be mostly either problem aware or solution aware. Rarely you will get product aware or most aware, which means problem aware. They are aware that they have a problem and they are still looking for solutions, not sure what solutions are. Solution aware, which means that they know that there are solutions around. They're just finding out the best solution for them. Product aware means that they are aware of your product as a solution, but they're still not sure it's the right fit. And then finally, ideally, most aware, it's where they just need the price and final transactional arguments to be convinced that they need to go with you. So on a homepage, you need to know the awareness level, not because you need to take them to the most aware right away. That's not the goal. But it's important because if you address the right awareness level right away in this section with the headline and value proposition, that's how you keep them on the page. Other than using their language and understanding what they're thinking and addressing that, also understanding their awareness keeps them on the page. That plus sophistication. So sophistication, it's basically an expansion of awareness. So for each stage of awareness, there are 3 levels of sophistication. So junior, intermediate, or expert, which means in simple terms, how much they know about the market, the product. So if awareness is what do they know, sophistication is how much they know. And that changes. It's very important because it dictates the type of language they use, whether you use more advanced language or simple language, and so on. The other and last point that I always keep in mind when I write my what they're thinking section is the emotional direction. And this simply means, are they running away from a pain, or are they going towards a goal or gain? So do we need to talk about it in more negative problem-solving terms, or should we keep them focused on the goal that they want to attain? And it's just a simple mental model to dictate whether or not you go with one approach or the other. It's also useful if you want to test different approaches, so it can come in handy. So this is the first section. Second section, proof. Pretty simple. We typically try to prove our points with logos, publications, testimonials, short explainer videos. Lately, I've interviewed also someone on my podcast, and they work for a company that does interactive demos. So interactive demos are a really good proof to use. They can actually replace a lot of the work that copy does, because a lot of people just want to put their hands on an interactive demo and see how it works. So this is proof, pretty simple. It can just be a banner right below your value proposition. Third section, orientation. So what do we do to help them with that? This is kind of a bit more of your value proposition, right? So this basically conveys your positioning. So what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it in a better way, or hinting at how you do it, just because we're going to do that in more detail after. Then you have the subhead, which expands on the value proposition. And also a very important aspect is the navigation and UX. And this, as I mentioned, it's a bit more of a subconscious element in the decision-making process. A lot of people will land on the website. They are going to look at the copy and at the images and at the videos, but subconsciously their eye are going to fall. Is going to fall on the navigation. Maybe they hover on the solutions and see that you also sell to 3-4 different customer personas. So from that, they are already kind of creating a mental image of of whatever you do, whatever your product does, and for whom. And then we have CTAs. So as I mentioned, primary and secondary. And this is for the people who are ready, you send them to the primary goal. And for those who still need more information, you send them to the next step in the flow of the website. 4 sections: stimulation, how we do it, better and different. So this is all about features and benefits. You probably know that you need both. It's also important to understand whether or not these people are more technical or not, so you can actually decide whether it's important to mention specific features by name so that they know exactly what they're looking at, or if they need more education, then you need to focus more on value. These are all decisions that you make once you speak to customers and understand where they're at. This section is also about media, visuals, and examples, which clearly explain how you do it in a different way. So showing dashboards, showing having GIFs, showing how a feature works, and so on. This is also about contextual social proof. So even though we have 2 major proof sections, you can sprinkle some social proof here as well. And the more contextual it is, the better, which means if you have a section with a feature that's about, I don't know, your Kanban view in your project management software, if next to that section you place a testimonial that speaks directly to someone having a great experience with your Kanban view, then that's a good social proof, because you're basically backing up whatever you're claiming with real social proof. And it's also about storytelling, right? So if you can manage to create some kind of story, and I'll show you an example that I like in the project that I work with on. If you can weave story in between features and benefits, that's going to be even more effective. The switch section. So this is all about addressing objections proactively. So don't wait for people to ask you for questions. So you should know what the most frequently asked questions are and how to address them. And you should bring them up in the copy. And I can show you some examples after. But basically, the more you're able to address objections, the less friction you will create on the page, and the more people will basically slide down to the final call to action. We can also have some FAQs. It's a bit rarer on the homepage. This is more of a pricing page or how it works page. But FAQs can work on the homepage as well, especially if you are a startup and maybe you don't have a lot of pages. You maybe just have a single parallax homepage, one of those pages that scroll based on the navigation element you click on. An FAQ can work pretty well, especially if you don't have a lot of customers to speak to and don't have a lot of content to write on the website. So you could include an FAQ here. This is also about comparing alternatives. And I know that might seem like a lot of content for a homepage, but the thing is, first, you might not need all of these sections. It depends on your stage and on your product stage. But also each of these sections can even just be like a simple sentence or a short paragraph or a headline. So these are all elements that, when placed together in the right sequence, compound. So it's not like writing a huge long form sales page, right? And this is also about setting expectation for how it works. So this is basically one thing that I really like for a lot of products. It's explaining how, for example, how the demo process works, or how the sign up works, or how booking a call works. Setting expectations, it's important so that people know what comes after and they feel more secure in clicking the call to action. And you can do this, for example, with a simple 3 to 4 steps, how it works section with, I don't know, fill out the form, our rep will get back to you in 1 hour. We'll schedule a call where you will learn XYZ benefits. This can be an example. The continuum of this section can be more logos, case studies, testimonials, even video testimonials at this point. I think written testimonials work best at the top, just so that people don't have to waste a lot of time watching videos. but by the point that they are like further down the page, they will have invested a lot more. So you can actually show them videos, but just keep them 30 seconds to 1 minute long. That's ideal. Authority content, if you have a blog section, you can also showcase how much you know about your industry. And review site badges. I think they can be useful, but again, a lot of people are using them more and more, so they're losing a bit of credibility. Final section, the close, as I mentioned, is the final call to action, and it should reconnect with the value proposition, right? So when I mentioned this value proposition in the what section, so what you do and how, the call to action should reconnect with that. And basically, it's designed to remind them why and how, why they should click and how it should work. And it should create some urgency and scarcity. If you can inject some of these, even better. Not necessarily, but even better. Cool. We have some examples. Should I look at some questions? Let me see. We don't have questions. So trust is visually based, not necessarily. So trust can, a lot of the visuals contribute to trust, but it's also about the testimonials they use and the social proof, right? So it's a combination of both, but it's important to understand that it's also visual because that's one aspect that a lot of people don't consider. Can you elaborate on about the proof in point 2 and proof in point 6? Yeah, as I mentioned, the difference in between proof in point 2 and point 6 is that right away at the top, you're kind of trying to establish your credibility and trust without them having a lot of context, right? So these need to be very specific to what they're talking about, what you're talking about in the first section. Further down the page, the proof kind of repeats and covers all the concepts that you walk them through on the homepage. So maybe you can talk about features, about the benefits, but you can also dive deeper into social proof because you have more time. So it's a good case for using case studies, as I mentioned, or videos. So that's kind of the difference between the two. I'm a bit blind, sorry. Is trust industry specific as well? Yes, for sure. Trust when it comes to industry, so it depends on your product and industry, right? So for some industries, video testimonials work best. For some other, reviews work best. For some industry, for example, reviews are considered a bit scammy or kind of like AI generated. It can be just because maybe these are saturated. So in that case, maybe use videos that show people talking. So that depends. Okay, let's show you some example. I have 3, but I think we have only time for 1 probably. So this and these examples. So this, for example, the main problem kind of challenge was that this was a super niche B2B SaaS that I worked for. This is the sexiest business that you can imagine. This is a portable toilet and a roll-off container software company. So this means that they created software that works specifically for companies who basically transport and carry around these portable toilets here and help them manage their inventory, manage their truck drivers and all that stuff, basically in one software. The problem here was that all these customers and clients, potential clients, they weren't familiar with software at all. So the challenge was selling software to someone who was super skeptical of software, mostly used spreadsheets, and also very old-fashioned. A lot of these guys, the owners of these companies, are like in their 50s, 60s. So that was kind of the challenge. And if we go through our sections, I can walk you through. So this, as I mentioned, the what they're thinking section, right? So get more done, stress less. This was actually not my value proposition, but they want to keep theirs, which is fine. I actually wrote this one though. So get more done, stress less, make your portable toilet, roll-off, or septic business more efficient, cut wasted time, manage jobs, optimize routes, track inventory, and automate billing, all with one tool. So this is kind of what they were thinking, right? They wanted to get more done and stress less, and they wanted to make their business more efficient. That's what's happening in their minds. So we're still not telling them exactly what we do. That's for after. Then we have the proof section, as I mentioned. So this is just quick logos of specific companies that they probably know in the industry. You see also here hundreds of operators. This is how they call themselves. So it's important to use the same language. Use Service Core to run a more efficient, productive, and profitable business. And we have, again, more proof, in this case, a video, which is super interesting because this company, side note, they hired former operators. So they hired basically their potential clients and have them working with them so they can ask them questions, but also because they are great at selling to their peers. So social proof here with one of those guys, which was very helpful. And then again, get more productive in the office and in the field. This is where we tell them what we do. So everything you need in one tool to manage customers and jobs. Then we have automate billing. This is all what we do. Optimize routes. And you see the language is very specific to their point in the journey. Track inventory without stress. Always know where your units are and get more done. So very specific. And these are all secondary calls to action, right? So you can have them on the page. Monitor progress in real time with the app. And then primary call to action, see a recording action. And this is secondary one, see how it works. Then again, some proof. And then we go into the how you do it, right? So not just another software program. Actually, here we kind of did a mix. So we did the what we do together with the how, because a lot of this copy here kind of address the unique way in which they do it. And then we kind of transition into this is kind of how uniquely they do it, but also addressing the switching costs, because we mentioned not just another software program. This was one objection that they had. So it's just going to be another software program. I'm going to have huge problems, going to take ages to implement and integrate in my business and so on. Make your business the talk of the town. So when you're a local business, word of mouth can make or break your business, but we build service calls so you can offer a better experience to your customers at every touch point. So you see, it touches on the fact that the software is not going to disrupt their current business, but it's going to just help them do everything better and more efficiently. Your job without the stress, again, emphasizing that part. Then we have more proof. And finally, the last, one in mid call to action. Sometimes you can have it. It's useful if you have a longer page. So no more putting out fires and shooting in the dark. This could be a final call to action, but we expanded it. So then we have a bit more proof after, which kind of backs up all that we say here. And then kind of the process. This is the exact section that I mentioned, how it works, right? So personalized demo, you're going to have a support team, onboarding and training, so it's going to be painless and so on. So this is a quick how it works section that sets expectations, as I mentioned. And then again, they added more proof here. They are constantly testing and changing things. So this is a latest testimonial video, I think, that they added, and calls to action. So this is an example of basically the structure that I just walked you through. And you see, it doesn't follow any ADA formula or PAS formula or PPPPP, whatever formula. It basically follows the way that you understand your prospects, your customers, and the way that they want to see information displayed on the page to make the best informed decision. So what time is it? 15 minutes, I think. We have to skip through all the stuff. We also have some testing. Quickly, just going through these. So my favorite ways to test messages, and you can ask me questions after. I will try to get back to you as much as possible. But my favorite ways to test messaging are wireframes. So I don't know if you're familiar with wireframes. So basically just layouts of websites that I usually use to write my copy and send it to a designer. These are super low fidelity wireframes where you can have the structure, the layout of the page, but still use them to test on testing platforms or to show them internally as PDFs even, or even you can run usability testing using wireframes, so you can do a lot of stuff. A/B testing, obviously, landing pages, but that depends on the traffic that you have. Feedback sessions. So let's say you have a mockup or even the final design, the final copy. You can literally interview customers and ask them questions about your messaging, what they're thinking about it. Here, though, it's important not to lead them to the answers that you want, so it can be tricky. Email campaigns. Here, you can test different angles, especially works for value propositions. So you can send emails, and depends on your list, obviously, but you can send emails with different subject line, A/B test the subject lines, the from names, the preview copy. So those are the things that I would test using different angles, as I explained at the beginning. So different awareness levels or sophistication levels, or the emotional direction. So you can test all of those in emails. Testing platforms, a really good one, especially for B2B. It's called Winter. Can be expensive, but that's because they have high-level executives or like B2B people testing these the messaging and these websites, so they need to be paid. Social media ads, again, if you have the budget here, you can use ads along with creative images to test different angles for your value propositions. These are some questions that I ask. So based on this table, right? When you have to pick your testing method, it's important to understand, is that within my budget? Can we implement it effectively, depending on the stage that we're at? Does it allow to focus us on the messaging? For example, wireframes are good because they don't include design. So you can be sure that people reading the messaging can focus only on the messaging when giving feedback. Will it scale or with our growth, or does it only work for a fixed size or stage? So this depends. For example, ads, depending on budget, you can scale them. Testing on platforms, you can scale them as well. You can, depending on budget, you can basically test with hundreds or thousands of people at once. Some other methods are less scalable. Does it encourage collaboration across different departments? Again, whether it's something you can share. Can it be applied across various contexts and platforms without limitations? Wireframes can be applied, don't depend on platforms. User testing platforms, obviously, you are tied with the platform features. Will it give us prompt and detailed feedback that we can act on quickly? Here, for example, emails or A/B test might take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to give you feedback. If you instead go on a usability testing platform or a messaging testing platform, you can get feedback in 1 day, for example. Does it provide insights into a wide audience segment? So this basically taps into the pool that you can use to give you feedback. All of these are questions that you can use to understand which of these is the best testing method for you. How do we make it all easier? We ask AI before it destroys the entire world. How to use AI to write better copy? Again, it's still not about formulas or prompts. It's about understanding people. And this is what I mean. So my favorite way of using AI for understanding people, research. Actually, my favorite way to use AI, it's for research analysis, giving me ideas, helping me think. It's not for writing at all. I might use it to get different perspectives, different ideas, and different angles, but all of the value, I get it from the research. So this is a methodology kind of that I coined, progressive conversational research and day-in-the-life exploration. So what I mean, so these are some examples. In this case, I was using Claude 3 Opus, which is the latest model by Anthropic. So I mostly use Claude, ChatGPT 4. Lately, just started using Gemini 1.5 and Notebook LM, but those are basically the 4 that I use the most. And for example, in this case, I was analyzing a transcript of a call, right? So for this company, I basically fed AI with a transcript of the call, and I started asking questions. So the progressive conversational research method that I was talking about is basically just feeding it something, feeding it material, and asking questions as you go. For example, in this case, I was asking, what does their current ecosystem look like, right? So this is something that the prospect on the call might not necessarily have mentioned, but AI taps into all the knowledge that they have about this specific persona. In this case, it was, I think, an IT guy or CIO. AI can tap into all that knowledge and give you very good information that you can use, pick, expand, refine the messaging of, and so on. Another example. In this case, AI, basically, Claude said something like easy document editing by the admission team. So I wanted to dig deeper into this. So I asked it, can you dig into this need for this guy? And this is what AI basically told me. So this is a quote, highlighted a few reasons. So then I would go into each one of these points and dig deeper and deeper, kind of like down the rabbit hole. Another example that actually shows it a bit better. So in one point, Julian says it's possible to assess two evaluators independently to the same applicant, blah, blah, blah. I basically asked it, what does it mean? What does it look like in their day-to-day work? And I wanted AI to basically give me a perspective of this persona in their day-to-day life, right? So that I could first envision myself and kind of absorb their experience in my mind, just to be familiar and create that intuitive feeling that copywriters need to have when they write copy, right? And I think AI makes all the process faster, because before we used to have to go through reviews, interview transcripts manually. It was taking ages. Right now, you can basically ask AI to give you a day in the life, literally, of that persona. And if you can integrate it with real information from your interviews, even better, because it's more specific. But that's basically the gist of it. So asking questions, going deeper. So for example, here it says, these are all the steps that they take to evaluate. Admission direction aggregates evaluator data. After both evaluators have completed their independent assessment, Julian wants the admission direction team, like a leadership or committee group, to be able to easily gather and view the data. So in this case, I could ask it, um, for example, how do you think they would be able to easily gather and view data? And AI would go deeper and deeper. And the nice thing about AI is that it doesn't stop. It never tires. So it always gives you answers that you can use to dig deeper and deeper. And also, there's still room for prompts, but again, if they help you think. So I have this link that I will share with you after, which is an article that I wrote for Copy Hackers, which is kind of mega homepage prompt. But the nice thing of how it works, so this is the prompt. You basically have an introduction, but you can basically see it's an interactive session. So the prompt, and this is for ChatGPT, but it should work for other ones. The prompt instructs AI to start this kind of interactive session with you. So it's based on these sections. It's going to ask you questions on what you know about your customers, about your valuable position, and you don't need to write final copy, right? You just need to feed it information as you go, one by one, based on the questions that it asks. And AI will basically create a good, solid draft for your homepage based on the sections that I just mentioned, which are here. You can see that I basically explain section for homepage copy, clear industrial relevance and resonance, trust, orientation, stimulation, so all the things that we talked about. And also at the top, yeah, it basically goes through all the sections. So this is an example, but other prompts that you can see here are all on Copy Hackers, which I'm writing for. These are all useful prompts, but the most useful ones, as I mentioned, are about research. So helping you research, extract information, or giving you a lot of, for example, this one, how to prompt AI to analyze jobs to be done, is a good one. I even wrote another one that basically used AI to A/B test email copy. So it basically said, AI, you are this persona, I don't know, CTO or whatever. These are two variants of different emails. Please let me know which one you would resonate the most. Give me a trust score and all that stuff. And I tested it with the real shitty emails that I wrote and better ones. And it always, without fail, told me that like the better ones were actually the most effective ones. So I think there's a lot of potential there, especially if you're a startup and don't have a huge audience or even customers to ask for feedback. Using AI, it's imagine that it has the whole knowledge of humanity, kind of, because that's what's online. And you can basically tap into that to figure things out. And this is basically it, guys. Hopefully it was helpful and opened your mind to a few new ideas. Let me see, do we have any questions? How much do we have, Andre?
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes with that.
Okay. Let me see. So, that's really the nice approach. Interesting. Why did you decide to put two CTI buttons? What was the thought process behind it? Oh, yeah. So for the CTI buttons, if you mean the service core website, the two CTAs, that were probably because, and that was like 2 years ago, but it was probably because I realized that by that point, people might not be ready to click the primary call to action, and they might need a secondary one to go to a page where we were digging deeper into the specific claim or whatever we talked about in that section. So you need to evaluate section by section whether it's important to send them to another section of the website, or if you think that by that point they should be ready to click. And I think they did some studies that obviously thinking about the paradox of choice, but the more options that you have for decision making at a certain point, the better, the higher the chances are that people actually do something. So obviously, don't overwhelm them with choices, but if you can provide them at least two choices at any given moment, and it's not too crowded on the page, at least they will take one action. Which is the fastest method of testing at the early stage of a product? Oh, depending on your audience, I would probably go with usability testing. That's the fastest. So, and depending on how complex your product is, right? So, because usability testing, probably on usertesting.com, you can still find a good audience that can be qualified to understand your messaging. But other websites like Userfeel, Usability Hub, their audience is quite generic. So if you have a very complex B2B product, it's hard to get good feedback that makes sense, just because unless it's an e-commerce website where you can ask anyone to give you feedback, it's hard to find a specific audience. If you have the budget, which I think for just to get started, I think anything between $500 and $1,000, you can get a solid kind of impression test or preference test on winter.com, which is, if you're not familiar, it's this website, and this is perfect for B2B if you're in B2B. And you can see pricing. So they have pay as you go. So I will probably go with pay as you go pricing calculator here. You have to kind of go to a weird route to get this, but basically these are the types of test. So I'll probably go full page preference test. If you're just testing the value proposition, just do a preference test. 30 people is fine. And then depending on your audience, you need to pick whether a specialist, mid-level, or senior. But you can see it's maximum 1,500, and you can get good, solid feedback from your target audience in, I don't know, launching minutes. Probably gonna take 2 days. Typically, your tests take at least 1 or 2 days to get the feedback. So that's probably the fastest. What am I doing here? Yes. I can actually stop sharing my screen or no? Chat. Okay. All right. That's pretty much it, guys. We are done in time. And yeah, I'm on the Slack, the community Slack. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, DM me in the community. I will do my best to get back to you.